At the age of 22, I signed up for a sales company, a network marketing company that completely, totally changed my life. And I would go on to spend the next 5 years getting to the top 10% of the company that at one point in time was doing around $9 billion in suggested revenue. It's a company everybody knows. I've talked about it before. But during that, at the age of 27, I found myself in a place of where I had kind of achieved all the things that I thought I wanted to achieve at that time, but I was ready and desperately realized I needed to reinvent myself and become somebody completely different. Because the person I was being at that time was not authentic to who I wanted to be and who I thought was the highest version of myself, or at least at the time what I thought that would look like. And so if you're somebody who has been successful, and maybe even not been super successful in all your endeavors, but you've been working hard for a long time in one area, right? You refused, you listened, you didn't diversify, you focused your energy on one path. So maybe it's been 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? If you guys look at this channel, I have posted over 200 videos on all things mindset, business, life, wellness, my life vlogs. Maybe you're like me and you've been doing a lot of work for a long time, and maybe you haven't reached the result you necessarily thought you were going to in the time that you thought you would. And so for a long time in my previous company, despite having what some people would argue is very good success, I had one of the biggest teams in Indiana. Was making about $3,000 in passive income at one point in time, doing absolutely not a goddamn thing to make that money, just off the team and work I had built from the years prior. At another point in time, and I've talked about this on this channel, I was making over $100,000 a year doing this company, either between the local shop I had, selling things, reimbursement checks from our downline. It was ridiculous. I was making anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 in a month. I wasn't very consistent. Most months it was like 5 to 7. But I've had months where I've made over $20,000 in a month, $10,000 in a week. And despite all that, I felt like I was missing something and like I was not able to do the things. In fact, I knew what I was supposed to be doing most days, but I found myself really unable to do it. I felt like there was this resistance. And the reason I felt this resistance was whenever I would think about what the next 5 years would look like, if I had actually accomplished the goals, if I did all the things that I said I was going to do by signing up, I didn't really like the way that looked in my head. Now, maybe it wasn't going to be like that. But basically what I mean is I saw somebody who was in the top 1%, was very close to me at the time. And they had on paper what looked like a life that I wanted desperately at the time. They're making over $30,000 a month at the time. They came from the same place as me though. Like we came from a small town where not a lot of people make it. And they were crushing it, and they were young and they had children the same age. And for a long time, I blindly followed this person and I did pretty much everything they said all the time. But then one day I was noticing the kind of systematic way this person had to live their life and the responsibilities that came with the levels of success that they had in the vehicle that they had it in. And this is something really important for a lot of you guys. You have to wake up from social media. There is a whole other side to every good thing you see on the internet. And it doesn't mean it's all bad, but it does mean that there's a lot of fucking work that you don't see and people don't talk about that comes with having those external kind of materialistic validations, right? And so I bring this up for a multitude of different reasons, but I started to look at this guy's life and I was like, dude, even if I was getting paid that amount of money, I would not want to do that. I did not like the trajectory my life was headed on, because it became evident that living like that was not just something, like it was a byproduct of that lifestyle. You had to be responsible for these amount of people. You had to have all these calls. You had to constantly bring in new people. And when I saw that, something woke up and was like, dude, we have to figure something else out. Because the best part about what I had done, and maybe you're like me, is that I had realized and my brain had been expanded. I had been exposed to people who made a lot of money, and people who thought outside the box in personal development and the idea that if you work harder on yourself, you can change your reality. And so even though I had committed all this time to this one thing, it became evident that in order to get to the level that I wanted to, I needed to go in a different direction. I needed to start doing things that I actually wanted to do. And then that led me to realize that, hey, my first goal in life, the reason I even signed up, was not to be forever in this company. In fact, it was to learn how to make the X amount of dollars so that I could fund my, at the time, rap career and personal brand and have people who I know and learn skills. And I did absolutely all of that. And so it was the natural next step for me to move on and create my own company and to go on to help other people. But I had to reinvent myself who I was. I had to change everything about it. Listen, if you guys didn't know this, I was like one of the more popular trainer people in this area, in the Midwest area for this company. Thousands of people followed me, and I've trained and spoke to them at events. I went 5 years not going to an event, networking with people in this company. I had a wide known name. And so when I left all of that to focus on something that I had no idea what I was doing, I didn't know what I was supposed to do to finish it. I didn't know how, like, really to do it at all, but I had to reinvent myself. And listen, it wasn't easy. That was almost 5 years ago. Is at the end of 2020, I realized I should look around, see what else is available. And so if you're in a place where you've been putting in a lot of effort, reinventing yourself is a two-edged sword, right? Because there's the part of you that doesn't want to quit and doesn't want to give up and wants to make sure that, you know, you're completing the thing and doing what you said. But there's a quick little, I guess, criteria I would have you guys go through before you decide whether you should reinvent yourself only internally and change the way you approach the same thing, or you should do both, change yourself internally and change the thing you're doing externally. Here's how you tell what you should do, right? Because I don't want to produce a series of quitters, but there is a group of people, and I was in this, that are sitting in a sinking ship with a yacht right next to them with their name on it. There doesn't require extra work. When I started doing my own coaching program and I started actually helping people and helping them deal with limiting beliefs, helping them deal with the traumas, all the stuff that I had been trained for years and severely underpaid for, I realized that there was these people who had end up coming to me for help and end up working, even just you guys that watch the videos, right? I would have never met or done any of this for any of you guys if I didn't first allow myself to fail and reinvent and leave that previous company, right? If I didn't allow myself to quit on the vision. You know, if you go over there and you ask them, you know, I'm a quitter, right? I was close. I had all the skills, but I gave up. But to me, I would have not saved all the people that I've saved now. And I'm not some savior, just the conversations I've had and been able to help people point it out. I don't ever want to get it twisted, right? God does all the work, and the work is even more so on yourself. I'm just here to guide people and give them the support they need while they're making the transition that I made previously, right? But I would have done none of it if I held on to the wrong thing. And so if you change your internal state to be that of the highest reality, right? So what I did was I got myself up to imagining what freedom really looks like for me. What is the life that I actually want to have and that I actually want to live? One of the best things I learned in that previous company was they said that you can design your dream life. And they meant it. And it's the truth. And it's not just some woo-woo stuff, right? It applies to hard workers even more. Okay, if you guys want to see a video about why hard working isn't that helpful, you can check that out. But like, this is the thing. You have to get to that level of imagining what freedom really looks like. What is the whole point? What do you want to do? Like, what do you actually want to live like, right? And then once you get there, if you at the best version in your current vehicle does not align with that vision, then maybe it is time to reinvent yourself. Maybe it is time to have all the hard conversations, to have all of the hard talks, to not avoid it anymore, and to just dive into the things that make you uncomfortable so you can overall reach your highest self. you'd be surprised. You might be able to make half the amount of money you're making, but in a way that makes you actually fulfilled, and your life will be better. There won't be any more anxiety. You won't be waking up with your stomach hurting. You won't be having terrible skin outbreaks and gaining weight uncontrollably and being tired all the time. These are signs of misalignment and anxiety and exhaustion and high cortisol. And you could get rid of all of that by not holding on to the ideal of who you are now. So that way your hands can be open to receive who you're supposed to actually be. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Again, my goal is to help everyone kill their self-doubt and release limiting beliefs. If you want to apply to work with me one-on-one to do that, you can do so on the link below. Peace, love, prosperity. I'll see you on the next one.